We were talking all night about ghosts and how we're haunted by the past, how memory keeps watching us.
Haunting in the hallway, walking through your sleep. The omens come at midnight and bring you to your knees. Cover me, cover me. Cover me, cover me in your sheets. Ooh,
From the periphery of our vision, or maybe in our dreams, all the ghosts standing there with arms folded, waiting on our redemption.
passing through the doorway, moving just 5 feet. The night makes the incision through what is and isn't real. Cover me, cover me. Cover me, cover me.
Ghosts are the unresolved creatures of memory, restless and demanding. We exist between their veils, our lives staged between the present and their memories. Her ghost was the play within the play of his life, a brief moment in time, still haunting him all these years later, an unresolved plot, a mysterious final scene. Gusts of wind like hers blow through him, as would a gale, threatening the frame of a formerly agile and sturdy young man, now aging and bending from the force of his years. The effect of wind is his constant reminder. Blow, blow, blow the man down. Over the years, he's often returned to this place, a mid-sized Ontario town, its historic theatre just up the hill from a placid river. The effect of wind is palpable in this place that was before, blowing through the years, rendering memories neither in nor out of time, memories of her, the spill of wine, her way of leaving a room, the overtones of her speech, like the polyphony of a chorus inhabiting the theater from the first to the very back row. This place that was before, the well-trodden boards, echoes in the wings, the glare of footlights, the past tethering his feet to this stage, forever frozen. The effect of wind forces a receptivity to things. You find yourself bending and returning, moving your center down to a movable anchor. His anchor was forged from free will, but hammered into fate by time and circumstance. His life had been a pivot for all directions. The east a beginning, the west the end, the south a reliving, the north his desire to make amends. The effect of wind is to lean away, your leaves and branches wary of impact, only to rebound so close to the face of the oncoming force that it might be known for the first time. Always leaning and rebounding. He had done this so many times with her, a force of nature, just beyond the reach of his pivot. He can remember the effect of wind through the billowing curtains on a Sunday afternoon in their apartment. The breeze lifting the faint piano music from the other room, landing on their bodies, between the sheets, under cotton. He taps the notes gently on her skin, his tempo, her pulse.
Impressions of you stay, a time in younger days, crumpled sheets of novels on the floor, the logic of your wit, the errors of your lips, the instant of you passing through the door. And if I live to forget you, it will surely be 1,000 years before I let the night fall without you. There will always be the place there was before. There was before.
Their first weeks together, before rehearsals began, was indeed a piece of theater itself. Star-crossed lovers, passionate, intense, rolling in the crumpled sheets of a tiny ground-floor apartment, entered through a picturesque cobblestone courtyard. Novels of great literature strewn about the bedroom floor, always a bottle of Bordeaux nearby, 2 stemmed glasses, hers always rimmed with faint rouge lipstick. Such is memory, glorious and youthful, the place that was before. A mattress on the floor, a painting of Shakespeare on the door. They shared that humid summer, the sticky fusion of their bodies, too young to know the coming chill of fall. Like all courtship, their initial union unfolded in the mists before time, before the events that come to mark the stubbornness of time. The events that come to change your life, the transitions which manifest memory. Now 30 years on, Tristan can still hear the improvised Elizabethan rant, the cadence of her speech ringing across the stage that night, leaving him and the other actors in shock as to what to do next. Her quite off-script tirade of great poetic acumen, projecting to the back rows of the theater, then reverberating back to the stage, had the power of a Greek chorus, intense and Dionysian.
Perchance the play releases now its thunder. It broods and sinks down into Hades under. Perchance the play reveals and thereby plunders the versions of ourselves obscured and hiding under.
She was known as M in the local arts community, just an initial, which she had shortened from Madeline, in homage to her great-grandmother who had used the initial M as her moniker while a regular performer in the Cabaret Voltaire and the Dada art movement in Zurich around 1916. Madeline often displayed the risky and sometimes wild abandon which her great-grandmother had been known for, and so it was difficult to tell if her stage antics as M that evening were part of the actual play or the result of some great emotional meltdown. During her rant across the stage, channeling the personalities of what seemed to be several characters, implying great subterfuge and proposing extraordinary plot lines, M left no doubt about the hopelessness for the redemption of her accused. The theater company's staging of an avant-garde version of Shakespeare's Hamlet was already a risky endeavor. M's improvisation added even more confusion to the outrageous and sometimes rudderless production. M's rant created another frame for the play, a play within the play, adding yet another level to Shakespeare's own device at the beginning of Act 3, Hamlet's little play within the play to reveal the guilt of Claudius. As it turned out, it was also M's intent to prove guilt and demand accountability. Over the course of a minute or two, the force of M's improvised words singled out Tristan from the other actors, ushering him downstage to the very edge, threatening to topple him over into the pit of judgment. He could see she intended to reveal him, to arrest his soul for some offense or transgression that he was unaware of. She then turned and left the stage. A door slammed in the wings. He never saw her again. He thought that returning to this place that was before, might offer some clues, wading through the memory of their final performance. But alas, the exercise was always a fool's errand, a hopeless working through, always an end without resolution.
Double take when the devil shows up late. Your innocence aspires to be true, and if there's wine stains on the rug, if the facts reveal the rub, you offer up your witness and some clues.
They first met early that summer at a rehearsal for a recreation of the Cabaret Voltaire. The idea, first proposed by M to the theater troupe, attracted writers, actors, poets, painters, also mask makers and sculptors and musicians. She was immediately attracted to Tristan, as his name reminded her of Tristan Tzara, the Dada poet who played such a significant role in the original Cabaret, and as he would learn, was the unrequited love of M's great-grandmother. On the stage, Tristan and Madeline understood each other. On the stage, they could anticipate each other. In the structure of a play, there was comfort in destiny and alliance in cause. She was a painter and actor from art school. He had come from theater school. Art is approached from all sides, from above and below, from inside and out. His stage training seemed to mix well with her comfort with improvisation and the avant-garde. Their rehearsals were invigorating and inspired. They made love for the first time secretly in the wings of the empty theater. In their passion, they had spilled a bottle of wine on the floor of a newly painted set, one of the many places he had marked with her, places they had shared, animated forever by her presence, before time. Before their time, there was another place, in the early days of the birth of modern art, a place exploding with new ideas and new rules. Zurich, 1916.
Across Europe, in the night skies, the stars were being shot out, one after another, the very constellations darkening, as the dynasties of Imperial Europe had declared war on each other. 40 million dead. In the twilight, as Europe struggled from its knees, there were those who dared to hang from the remaining stars, their feet dangling and scraping the heads of the docile passers-by. Seething thoughts of revolution, a movement of artists intent on designing new ways to say no. The cabaret Voltaire found their stage in the back room of a small cafe on the Spiegelgasse in the center of Zurich. The cabaret was named after the French Enlightenment philosopher Voltaire. In his novel Candide, he had refuted the tired proposition that this is the best of all possible worlds. The Cabaret Voltaire aspired to unite the artistic voices of opposition and negation. They quoted the poet Apollinaire and spoke in literary cubism, deconstructing and reassembling the world, like Picasso's recent painting Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. To the horror of the art critics, a new portrait for the human condition. Taking the stage of the cabaret were dancers and harlequins, painters, poets, musicians, and performance artists, attempting to alter the consciousness of those willing to stomach the often challenging presentation. The cafe audience grew over several evenings, attracting artists, intellectuals, anarchists, socialists, cynics, and curiosity seekers. People who had entertained the hunch that maybe words are the enemy. They had come for one redeeming word, Dada. Conceived by the young Romanian poet Tristan Tzara, it was a word of chance, refuting itself, tongue firmly in cheek, claiming no definition, except for the demand that you question all that you know.
Madeleine and Tristan worked tirelessly on the recreation of the 1916 cabaret to introduce new and present-day critiques of postmodernism, consumerism, the demise of the planetary ecosystem, the breakdown of human communication and agreement on what is true, the desire of the digital age to transform life into a virtual existence. Their project was exciting, heady, and exhausting. In a word, Dada. Following the performances that summer of their new stage production, Tristan and Em found escape on warm evenings. Down the hill from the old theater near a placid bay formed by an inlet of the river. A little off the beaten path, a kind of secret place. After all these years, he still comes here to commune with its ghosts. A full moon is rising just above the horizon. The growing intensity of its glow threatens to dim the brilliant cascade of southern stars and the flash of fireflies gathering between the summer pines. The night has erased the landscape, leaving the interplay of light to reflect like a hologram on the water. The stars fall on the surface and become water diamonds. He watches from the shore as she plunges into the great cosmic pool, the water diamonds swirling around her body. Heaven above, heaven below. She swims as if embracing the constellations, the stars knowing her intimacies, her intricacies, as they caress her skin, limbs, and hair. The water diamonds knew her like Tristan never could. There was always that mystery about Em, something in reserve, a mistrust. That cynical eyebrow always arched for inquisition. She had not much time for talk. She moved in a world of action, metaphor, and, like many artists, a world of representation and symbolism. From the beginning, Tristan had noticed that Em had little faith in language to communicate truth. On the way down to the river, he had tried to tell her of his feelings for her, but she had put a finger to his lips and whispered, "No talk." It was not until he had removed his clothes to join her in the water that he began to understand the silence of this place. The warm breeze on his skin, her silhouette in the moonlight, the plunge into the dark water's depths, the baptism of it all. This is how we must swim through the stars, he thought, swimming outward with the orbits and the ripples. The ripples, precise and mathematical, know where they're going. Her gentle motion seemed to yield to their guidance, as if to say, "Give us this moment of grace and nothing else." Speechless, they swam together among the water diamonds, below the cover of stars. The forfeit of language was a small price to pay. The body, the eyes, the gestures offering a more silent navigation through the constellations. Later that fall, the group of players staged a new production proposed by Tristan, a reimagining of Shakespeare's Hamlet. To keep it firmly grounded in the avant-garde, Madeline proposed that the production employ some of the improvisational and symbolic devices the troupe had used in their new staging of the Cabaret Voltaire. Their new Hamlet drew on present-day political, cultural, and existential themes, allowing Hamlet's psychology to offer a unique critique of postmodern existence. During rehearsals, Tristan and Em were less symbiotic on stage as Hamlet and Ophelia than they had been during their staging of the cabaret. There was an odd sense of unease between them, as if they were beginning to inhabit and assume the very essence of their new postmodern Shakespearean characters. The tension continued to grow through the late summer rehearsals, culminating in the final performance on closing night, on that crisp and windy October evening. Em was alone and withdrawn before the performance, keeping a cold distance from Tristan while smoking a cigarette outside the stage door. He immediately felt the effect of wind, a kind of tension from the swirl of leaves. He dismissed this as a closing night depression. Anyways, all the actors seemed a little more meditative and solemn than usual. Halfway through the performance, as he caught her eye as she stood just off stage at the beginning of Act 3, he felt something had broken between them. Em turned her head as if to walk toward the wings, then, determined, she turned on her heel and returned to center stage. Quite off script, but still Shakespearean in verse, she began speaking improvisational lines which had never been penned by the great bard. The other actors, taken by surprise but assuming one of Em's avant-garde interjections, gave her space on the stage. They played along with her improvisation as they had done before. But Tristan was frozen in the no-man's land of center stage, with an audience of 200 people staring him down. He gradually became aware that he was the subject of the tirade. With her stare locked on his eyes,
perchance the play releases now its thunder. It broods and sinks down into Hades under. Perchance the play reveals and thereby plunders the versions of ourselves obscured and hiding under. For this is what good players do, reveal the play and the watcher too. His ears now filled with barbs and jibes will test the merits of his soul inside.
her speech was cunning and captivating, but her improvisational play within the play, felt all too real for him. Her tears and her rage, all too real. The ordeal would last only a minute until Em stormed off stage, the sound of a stage door slamming in the wings etched into Tristan's memory. Another place that had been marked with her. Em left town that night. One of the other players in the troupe heard that she'd gone to Paris. In the ensuing years, he was never to find her again. Time leaves so much unaccounted for. Moments, hours, days, and even years, sometimes devoid of all meaning. Here in the place that was before, in a town, near a river, an old theater up the hill, he still searches for clues. Behind the scenes, maybe off in the wings. An errant word, a misunderstanding, a grave mistake, still unknown. Now in older age, Tristan plays the older roles. Recently a production of King Lear. The scene of Lear out on the heath, raging against the storm and life's insanities. all so poignant now in the storm of his own mind. So frail, so human, so consumed by the past. He resides in a place that was before, his life a play within a play, wine stains on the stage. The stars and footlights dim, actors lose their way. What is left is only memory and consequence, bending and returning in the timeless effect of wind.
We always jest like Shakespeare at his best. Everything a play within a play, and there's wine stains on the stage. We acted out our rage as the footlights dim, the actors lose their way. And if I